History is often called the dawn of time, but dawn is not silent. History begins with a roar. It begins with the heavy beat of a hammer on clay, the sound of water being redirected to a thirsty field, and the smell of sunbaked mud. If Project Nile taught you the way to the sun, Project Sumer will teach you the way to civilization. Welcome to Mesopotamia, the year 3000 BC. You've been displaced. The hum of your 21st century world is gone. There is no internet, no electricity, and no concept of global. You wake up between two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. Your first sensory shock is the sound. It is not the silence of the Egyptian desert. It is a noisy, chaotic chorus of construction. You hear the rhythmic chanting of thousands of men, the crack of whips, and the crying of children. This is the birth of the city, a human machine made of mud and ambition.
The biological shock, the silt and the disease.
We must start with your body. In the simulation, your modern immune system is still a major problem. Mesopotamia is not clean. The air is safe, but the water is a death trap. While you're worried about lions or soldiers, the real killers are in the dirt. You are walking on silt that has been flooded for thousands of years. It carries ancient bacteria and parasites your body cannot identify. One small cut on your foot from a sharp reed, and a deadly infection will begin. In this simulation, you must learn to wear basic sandals or you will die from a scratch. You carry the same danger as before. A single virus from your future lungs could wipe out a district in the city of Uruk. You are a biological weapon. But in Sumer, the danger to you is also social. The city is dense. People live very close to their animals. Sickness spreads here in a way you have never seen. There is no concept of a quarantine. When a plague hits a Sumerian city, it is seen as the anger of the gods. You are not just a stranger. You are a risk. If you arrive looking sick, you will be driven out into the desert to die. So you do not anger the gods of the city.
The sensory overload, the odor of ambition.
Your arrival is a sensory apocalypse. The odor of ancient Egypt was lotuses and spices. The odor of Sumer is dust, fish, sun-dried clay, and human waste. There are no sanitation systems here. Waste from 100,000 people flows in small ditches right next to the grain stores. In the hottest months, the air is thick with flies. In this environment, you're pampered. Future immune system will be forced to evolve or crash within weeks. Survival rule number 1 is the same as Project Nile. Do not drink the water raw. The rivers provide life, but they also provide a quick death from cholera and dysentery. The Tigris and Euphrates are far more chaotic than the Nile. They flood violently and without much warning. The water is dirty. The entire city runs on beer. Like in Egypt, Sumerian beer is liquid bread. It is thick, nutritious, and low in alcohol. It is your only safe hydration. Your new life is a constant search for 2 things: clean beer and a dry place to sleep before the next flood.
The linguistic abyss, the unwritten words.
You want to speak. You see a man wearing a complex woolen kilt. He is pointing at a pile of mud bricks. You try your modern languages. English, Turkish, Spanish. They mean nothing. Indo-European languages are ghost. Even the proto-dialects are primitive. You are trying to communicate using an opera, while everyone else is still learning to hum. If you speak a future language, you're not a barbarian. You're not even human. The concept of other is far stronger here. If you arrive shouting and waving your arms, you are not a traveler. You are Lilitu, a desert demon, or an omen of Isfit chaos. The city police, the Lugals, big men, who enforce the will of the priest king, will capture you. Your future knowledge will be used as evidence against you in a trial you cannot understand. Your best survival tactic is a silent mimicry protocol. You must copy the movements of the laborers. You must lower your head. You must learn that eye contact with a superior is not a sign of confidence. It is a sign of rebellion that will be corrected with a copper blade.
The architecture of poverty, mud bricks and rivers.
In Sumer, your modern skills are gone. Your programming, your driving, your management, these are worthless now. In Mesopotamia, value is measured in two things: your ability to carry mud and your capacity to endure the river. You find yourself at the bottom of a new hierarchy. Your new home is not a stone pyramid. It is a mud brick house that shares a wall with the neighbor's latrine. Your new working hours are from sunrise to sunset. You spend your life carrying heavy baskets of silt to build the ziggurats. The great religious towers are the center of every city. You spend your time pulling ropes to move blocks of unbaked brick. This is not the labor of Egypt. This is a grinding, desperate construction of society that knows it can be wiped out by a flood at any moment. Your food is a few loaves of barley bread and a cup of date beer. This is your reality now. You are not a traveler. You are a resource. You are a tool for the gods. And if you stop working, you are disposable.
The ladder of mud. Surviving the social pyramid.
You have survived the first week. Your body is covered in a layer of fine gray dust. Your skin is red from the sun. Your throat is dry from the hot wind of the desert. In this simulation, you have realized that your modern clothes are gone. You are now wearing a simple piece of wool wrapped around your waist. It is itchy. It is hot. But it is the only thing that makes you look human. In the city of Uruk, everyone has a place. This is the first mass society in history. In the 21st century, you are an individual. Here, you are a number. You are a unit of labor. The city is owned by the gods, and the gods are represented by the priests in the ziggurat. To the priests, you are a machine that consumes barley and produces work. If you do not work, the machine is broken. If the machine is broken, it is thrown away. To climb this ladder, you must stop being a laborer. You must show that your mind is worth more than your muscles. But how? You cannot speak their language yet. You only know a few words for water, bread, and fire. You must use a universal language, geometry. You walk to the edge of a new construction site. A group of men is trying to measure a field for a new temple. They are using ropes with knots. They are struggling with the angles. This is your moment. You take a stick. You draw a large circle in the soft mud. You divide the circle into 360 degrees. You show them how to find a perfect 90-degree corner. In the 21st century, this is basic school math. In 3000 BCE, this is a message from the gods. The overseer stops his whip. He looks at your drawing. He looks at you. He does not see a vile foreigner anymore. He sees a tool of the temple. He takes you to the Adubba, the tablet house. This is a school for scribes. This is where the power of Sumer is kept.
The reed and the clay. The power of information.
The Adubba is a dark, cool room made of thick mud bricks. The air smells like wet earth and old vinegar. Here, young boys are hitting clay tablets with reeds. They are learning cuneiform. This is the world's first system of writing. It is not an alphabet like yours. It is a complex system of hundreds of wedge-shaped symbols. It takes a lifetime to master. As a sleeper, you have an advantage. You understand the concept of data. You know that information can be stored. You see the Sumerians using clay to count sheep and jars of oil. They are using it for taxes. But you know that writing can do more. You know it can record laws, stories, and science. The teacher gives you a wet piece of clay. He gives you a reed stylus. He wants you to copy a list of kings. Your modern hand is not used to pressure. The clay is heavy. The reed is sharp. But you do not just copy his symbols. You begin to organize the data. You create a table. You put names on the left and numbers on the right. You invent the spreadsheet 5,000 years before the computer. The high priest, Dian, comes to the school. He sees your work. He sees that you can calculate the grain taxes for a whole village in minutes, while his best scribes take hours. You have used your modern logic to skip centuries of evolution. You are no longer sleeping in a mud hut with the laborers. You are now sleeping in the temple complex. You have clean linen. You have the best beer. You have protection. But with power comes the sleeper's danger. In Sumer, the priests believe they're the only ones allowed to talk to the gods. By showing such high intelligence, are you claiming to be a god? Or are you a demon sent to trick them? You must walk a very thin line. You must give all the credit to the god Enki, the god of wisdom. You must pretend that your knowledge is a revelation from the divine. If you claim the knowledge is yours, you will be drowned in the river as a heretic.
The engineering of the two rivers.
Now that you have the trust of the city, you are given a task: manage the water. Mesopotamia is a land of extremes. One day, the rivers are dry and the crops are dying. The next day, a giant wall of water comes from the mountains and destroys everything. The Sumerians believe the floods are the anger of the god Enlil. They pray and they sacrifice goats. You know better. You know the physics of water. You take a group of 500 laborers. You do not just build a wall. You build a system of sluice gates and overflow basins. You use your knowledge of gravity. You show them how to move water uphill using a series of levels. You design a canal system that can store the floodwater and release it slowly during the dry season. This is the most important moment in your simulation. By controlling the water, you have controlled the food. By controlling the food, you have controlled the people. The city of Uruk grows. More people come because they know they will not starve. The city becomes a superpower. But you see the sleepers sin again. By making life too easy, you are changing the human spirit. The Sumerians are no longer fighting the river every day. They are becoming comfortable. They are starting to build bigger weapons. They are starting to look at the neighboring city, Lagash, with greedy eyes. Your modern technology has created the first arms race in history.
The market of the first city.
You walk through the market of Uruk. This is the heart of the world. You see traders from the Indus Valley, from the mountains of Iran, and from the islands of the Persian Gulf. There is no money. There are no coins. Everything is trade. You see a man trying to trade a basket of dried fish for a copper knife. They are arguing about the value. You step in. You introduce the concept of standardized weights. You take a piece of stone. You carve a symbol on it. You say, this stone is the weight of 10 units of grain. You create a system of money using silver rings. This changes everything. Trade becomes fast. The market becomes a machine. You are watching the birth of capitalism. As a historian from the 21st century, you know where this leads. You know it leads to banks, to debt, and to global empires. You feel a sense of guilt. You have brought the virus of modern economy into this ancient world. You see the first debt slaves, people who borrowed grain and could not pay it back. They are now working for the temple forever. You realize that your improvements have created a new kind of suffering. In the simulation, you must decide, do you create a law to protect the poor? Do you invent the concept of bankruptcy? Or do you let the history follow its own dark path?
The psychological toll. The noise of the past.
At night, you sit on top of the ziggurat. You look at the stars. The sky is perfect. There is no light pollution. You can see the Milky Way like a river of fire. But you are lonely. You miss the sound of a car engine. You miss the glow of a screen. You miss the feeling of a hot shower. In Uruk, everything is loud, dirty, and dangerous. Even as a high scribe, you could die tomorrow from a cold or a bad piece of meat. The psychological pressure being the only modern human is breaking you. You start to talk to the stones. You start to see the gods in the clouds. Is the simulation changing you? Or are you finally seeing the world the way it really is? You realize that in the 21st century, we are sleeper ourselves. We sleep in our technology, and we forget the raw power of the earth. In Sumer, you are wide awake. You decide to build a laboratory, a secret place inside the temple walls. You start to experiment with chemistry. You find a way to make soap using potash and oil. You show the women of the city how to wash their children. The death rate of babies drops. The population explodes. You are no longer just an observer. You are the architect of a new human race. But the king, the Lugal, is watching you. He sees that the people love you more than they fear him. He sees that your magic science is more powerful than his army. He sends for you. He wants to know the secret of your immortality. He wants to know how you can predict the floods and cure the sick. He thinks you have found a plan of life, the secret of Gilgamesh. How do you answer? Do you tell him the truth, that you are just a man from a future that does not exist yet? Or do you lie? In the city of Sumer, a lie can make you a god, but the truth will always make you a sacrifice.
The Bronze Edge. The birth of the war machine.
As the years pass in the city of Uruk, you are no longer just a scribe. You are an advisor to the king, the Lugal. You have given them better math and better water. But now the city is too successful. Uruk has grown so large that it needs more land, more wood, and more copper. To the south, the city of Lagash is what you need. In the 21st century, you think of war as something with planes and missiles. In 3000 BCE, war is a messy, screaming collision of men with stone axes and copper spears. But you know the future of violence. You know that a group of men working together is stronger than 1,000 heroes fighting alone. The Lugal asks you how to defeat Lagash. You look at his soldiers. They are brave, but they fight like individuals. You decide to introduce the phalanx. You show them how to make large, rectangular shields made of wood and thick leather. You teach them to stand shoulder to shoulder, creating a wall of wood and bronze. You give the men in the back long spears that reach over the heads of the men in the front. This is the sleeper sin at its worst. You are turning farmers into a professional killing machine. You watch the first training sessions. The sound of the shields hitting each other is like thunder. The men feel the power of the group. They are no longer afraid because the man to their left and right is protecting them. When the army of Uruk meets the army of Lagash in the desert, it is not a fight. It is a massacre. The men of Lagash run into your shield wall, and they break like water against a stone. Your spears find the gaps in their leather armor. You watch the sand turn red. You realize that by trying to help your city survive, you have invented a more efficient way for humans to kill each other. You have accelerated the history of warfare by 1,000 years. The Lugal is happy. He gives you gold and more slaves. But you feel the weight of every dead man on your soul. You are a historian who has become a general, and the cost of victory is the loss of your humanity.
The prophet of the dark sun, mastering the gods.
Power in Sumer is not just about spears. It is about the sky. The people believe that every star is a god watching them. They live in constant fear of a bad omen. If a bird flies the wrong way, or if a goat has two heads, the city panics. You know the truth. You know the laws of the universe. You have a small notebook in your mind with the dates of every major astronomical event. You know that in 3 days there will be a total solar eclipse. You go to the ziggurat. You find the high priest. He is worried because the crops are dry. You tell him, the gods are tired of your small sacrifices. In 3 days at noon, the sun god Utu will hide his face. The world will turn to night. This is a warning. The high priest laughs at you. He thinks you are crazy. But you wait. On the 3rd day, the city is busy. The sun is high and hot. Then, slowly, the light begins to change. The birds stop singing. The air becomes cold. A shadow moves across the ground. At exactly noon, the sun vanishes. A black circle hangs in the sky, surrounded by a crown of white fire. The city of Uruk screams. Thousands of people fall to their knees. They think the world is ending. They think the gods have died. Even the Lugal is shaking with fear in his palace. Only you stand tall. You look at the dark sky and you wait. You know the moon is just moving in its orbit. After 3 minutes, the light returns. The people look at you with a new kind of terror. They no longer see you as a wise man or a scribe. They see you as someone who can command the sun. You become a living god. The high priest is pushed aside, and you are given the keys to the house of life. But being a god is the loneliest job in the world. No one will look you in the eye. No one will speak to you unless you speak first. You are surrounded by luxury, but you are a prisoner of your own power. You realize that by using science to control their fear, you have destroyed their culture. They no longer trust their gods. They only trust you. And you know that you are just a man with a cheat code for the universe.
The White Death, the first ecological disaster.
As you enter your final decades in Sumer, you see a new problem. It is not an invading army or a plague. It is a silent killer. You walk through the fields that have fed Uruk for 1,000 years. The barley is turning yellow, but there is something else. On the surface of the black mud, there is a thin layer of white powder. It looks like snow, but it is salt. You know exactly what is happening. This is the salinization of the soil. For centuries, the Sumerians have been using the river water to irrigate their fields. But the water carries tiny amounts of salt. In the hot sun, the water evaporates and the salt stays behind. Over time, the salt builds up until the ground becomes poison. The Sumerians don't understand this. They think the earth is cursed. They think the goddess Ninhursag has turned her back on them. They pray harder. They sacrifice more animals. But the salt continues to rise. The harvest becomes smaller every year. The city is starting to starve. You try to fix it. You tell the farmers to stop planting barley and start planting wheat, which is a bit stronger. You tell them to let the land rest. You tell them to dig deeper drains to wash the salt away. But the system is too big. The traditions are too strong. The priests say, "We have always done it this way. The gods will provide." You watch the beginning of the end. You know that in the future, the center of civilization will move north to Babylon, because the land in the south, your home, will become a salt desert. You are watching the death of the first civilization, and all your future science cannot stop it. You realize that even a man from the 21st century is small compared to the power of the earth. You cannot fix a planet that has been pushed too far.
The final tablets. The sleeper's last will.
You are an old man now. Your hair is white, and your bones ache from the damp air of the river. You know your time in the simulation is ending. You look at your hands. The same hands that once typed on a keyboard now hold a reed stylus. You decide to spend your last strength on the great archive. You go to the deepest room in the ziggurat. You order the scribes to bring you the finest clay. You tell them to leave you alone. You do not write about the kings. You do not write about the gods. You write the sleeper's code. You write in a simple version of cuneiform that you have designed to be easy to decode. You write the laws of electricity. You write the formula for gunpowder, but then you erase it. You have seen enough war. You write about the shape of the solar system. You write about the human heart. You write about the mistakes of the future. You write a warning about the salt in the earth and the heat in the sky. You order the scribes to fire these tablets in the hottest kiln. You want them to turn into stone. You want them to last for 5,000 years. You tell the high priest that these are the secret names of the stars, and they must never be moved. You hope that one day an archaeologist in 1920 or 2050 will find this room. You hope they will find a voice from their own time, screaming across the centuries.
The last sunset over the Tigris.
In your final hours, you ask to be carried to the top of the ziggurat. You look out over Uruk. It is a city of gold and mud. You see the smoke from the bakeries. You hear the sound of the market. You see the children playing in the canals. You feel a strange peace. You were a stranger here, but you have lived a full life. You have loved, you have fought, and you have built. You realize that history is not something that happens to people. It is something that people do. You look at your 21st century watch. It stopped working decades ago. The glass is gone, and the gears are rusted. You throw it into the river. You don't need to know the time anymore. In Sumer, there's only now and forever. The sun begins to set. It is the same sun that shines on your home in the future. It is the same sun that saw the first human pick up a stone. You realize that you are not a sleeper anymore. You are awake. For the first time in your life, you are truly awake to the reality of being human. You close your eyes. The sound of the river fades. The smell of the dust vanishes. The simulation is finished. You leave behind a city, a war, a desert, and a secret archive of clay. You are Sleep of the Historian, and you have finally become a part of the story you were trying to tell. The screen of history goes dark, but under the ground, in the dark silt of Mesopotamia, your tablets are waiting. They are the only truth left in a world of ghosts.
Summary of the Project Sumer experience.
The arrival. You survived the biological shock and the noisy chaos of the first city. The rise. You used math and geometry to become a high scribe. You invented the spreadsheet and the standardized weight. The power. You used an eclipse to become a living god. You invented the phalanx and changed the history of war. The fall. You watched the land turn to salt. You realized that science cannot always save a civilization from its own mistakes. The legacy. You buried your knowledge in clay, hoping to speak to a future that hasn't happened yet.